Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here, and welcome to Critiquing Subscriber Mixes, episode 17. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that there are so many things that home studio owners tend to gloss over when recording within their home studios or mixing in their home studios. And this is why I've put together my polished production checklist. In this checklist, I reveal to you a bunch of these things that people tend to gloss over and how you should focus on them in order to improve your productions without having to buy any new gear. There's a link below to the checklist in this video's description. So I know it's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and the truth is, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of mixes that have been submitted to me. So what I'm thinking about doing from here on out, and I want to hear your opinion on this, is I'm thinking about doing these live right here on YouTube so I can get through more mixes. I feel it'll be a little more efficient that way. And also you guys can drop questions and hang out with me while I critique these mixes. So if this sounds interesting and if you think you'd prefer it that way, just leave a comment below and let me know your opinion. Okay, and our first mix here comes from Tauren. Let's check it out. Okay, well, Tauren, I love what I'm hearing. I know you mentioned to me in your email that you did not have DIs with the guitars, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't think it really matters. I actually really like the guitar tone that I'm hearing. And you also were concerned about the overall balance of your mix because there's a lot happening, which is very common in modern metal. And dude, I'm gonna be honest, I think you've done a great job with the balance. I can hear everything nice and clear. The drums are punching through. I can hear the clank of the bass. The guitars sound great. I can hear the vocals nice and clear, and the vocals are not overpowering. I hear all of the background elements and overdubs nice and clear. I really wouldn't change anything about this. If I had to pick anything, and this is only my own personal opinion and taste, it sounds like the toms are overly scooped, but again, this is just my own personal opinion. There are a lot of classic, amazing albums that have very scooped sounding toms. So if this were my mix, the only thing I would really change is just I would allow a little more lower mids to exist within the toms. But that's if I have to come up with something. Overall, I think it's a great mix, and I would say it's ready to be released. All right, and our next mix here comes from Mike. Okay, well, Mike, I really like what I'm hearing. Killer production, killer playing. Everything sounds nice and tight and professional. You mentioned to me in your email that your main concern is mix muddiness. And the one thing I am noticing is that the kick drums are pretty loud. I feel it works, but there's a lot of lower mids existing in the kick drum, which is, I feel, conflicting with the bass guitar. That's why I don't hear a lot of low end on your bass. I feel like the kick is kind of overpowering the bass. So what I would recommend is just sucking out a little more of the, I don't know, around 500 hertz range on your kick, maybe down to 250 hertz, just to allow some breathing room for your bass guitar to cut through. Other than that, I think the vocals sound great. The guitars are nice and clear. Everything sounds crisp, well balanced, and everything can be heard. So as far as your mix muddiness that you're concerned about, I don't think it's anything major. I think it's a simple EQ and level thing. Just bring down the lower mids on your kick drum, maybe turn down your kick just ever so slightly, and bring up your bass guitar, and now your bass guitar can live in that range where your kick is now occupying. Awesome mix, and keep me posted on your future productions. All right, our next mix here comes from Don. Okay, well, Don, it's sounding great, and I feel that your mix has the opposite problem that Mike's mix had, in that your bass is actually louder than your kick drum, and the loud bass guitar is kind of muffling up the mix in general. And the performances sound great, although I hear certain things are slightly out of tune, which isn't the end of the world if you're going for a more natural production. But yeah, I hear something is slightly out of tune between the guitars and the bass, or the two guitars. Something's going on there ever so slightly, so you might want to check that out. But other than that, I think the mix is well balanced. The parts sound cool. It's just that the bass is just way too loud. So I'd take your bass guitar and turn it down 4 or 5 dB, and I have a feeling you'll still be able to hear it nice and clear, and it won't be muffling up and jumbling up with the other instruments. Great job, and keep me posted on your future mixes. All right, our next mix here comes from Frozen.
Двигай жопой, pump it up, с января до января. Это кто разнес танцпол, это все мои друзья. А у тебя так много кэш, что тебе сюда нельзя. Ой, слабачок, 5 минут под...
Okay, Frozen, I'm assuming that's your band's name. I like what I'm hearing. Really interesting production with guitars mixed with like electronic elements. The one thing I am noticing though is there is a lot of 4,000 hertz, or at least around 4,000 hertz that's existing within your mix. And it's kind of abrasive sounding. Again, my own personal opinion, my own personal taste. I would like a more warm and neutral sounding overall EQ curve to the mix. So I don't think you have to do anything major. Here's where most people get wrong. They'll just slap an EQ on their master fader or their master bus and just cut a bunch of 400 or 4,000 when they hear this critique. I don't think you should do that. I think you should find a few elements within your mix, specifically when those guitars come in isolation. There's a lot of like abrasive 4,000 hertz happening on those guitars. I would look to scooping it out of individual elements here and there to help tame that frequency range in your mix without doing it on your master fader. So give that a shot and let me know how that works out on this mix. All right, our next mix here comes from Jeremy. Let's see what we got. Okay, well, Jeremy, I like what I'm hearing. The one thing I noticed is that there's no bass guitar. So I don't know if there's bass in there and it's just really, really quiet. I don't think there is bass, just based on from what I've heard. But I noticed there's a lot of lower mids in the guitars, which now sound great because there is no bass guitar. But I'm gonna tell you this, when you do drop in a bass guitar, if you don't tame that 150 to 350 hertz range on the guitars, or at least in this mix, there's gonna be no room for the bass to cut through. So just keep that in mind for when you do record bass in this track. You might want to use a multi-band compressor or even an EQ and scoop out a little bit of that range, keeping the guitars where they are so you make room for your actual bass guitar once it's recorded. So drop in a bass guitar, resend me the mix, and let me know how that works out for you. All right, our final mix here comes from Sebastian. Okay, well, Sebastian, I absolutely love what I'm hearing. Nice 80s kick-ass vibe, driving riffs. And the one thing that impresses me is I could hear everything super crystal clear. I love the sound of the bass guitar sitting right in the middle between the two rhythm guitars. All the leads sound great, the vocals sound great. The one thing I noticed right off the bat is that the hi-hat was kind of taking my head off. Now I know with live drums, it's very difficult to get the hi-hat nice and quiet while keeping the cymbal crashes nice and present. if the overheads were not tracked properly, so it could be very challenging. But if a lot of that hi-hat is coming from hi-hat mic, I recommend just taking it down 5 to 7 to 8 dB, or maybe just eliminating the hi-hat mic in general. I don't think you're gonna need it. That's assuming that the hi-hat mic is existing in this mix at all. If it's just your overheads, you might wanna just take your overheads down just a few dB, just to kind of bury that hi-hat ever so slightly. Hi-hat bleed is one of the most difficult things to deal with when you're tracking, and it generally is not a mix thing. It often comes down to the actual source. But overall, man, I love the production, killer songwriting, killer performances, and a killer mix. So Sebastian, keep me posted on your future productions. I'd love to hear more. I would just like to shout out and thank everyone for submitting this excellent group of mixes. And again, if you're interested in seeing me do these live on YouTube so we can cover more mixes in a shorter amount of time, and also we can interact and talk to each other through the chat, let me know by leaving a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things Metal Rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, I've got t-shirts, mugs, and a ton of other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. And again, you can download my polished production checklist for absolutely free. Learn the key things that most home studio owners tend to gloss over when recording in their home studios, so you can fix these mistakes and get right to dialing in killer productions within your home studio without buying any new gear. There's a link below in this video's description. And until next time, happy mixing.